Hey MGTOWs, this is Vention. Just hanging out here in Mexico. There's a little courtyard in our house. The rent for this 3-bedroom, 2-bath house is about $350 a month, which is pretty darn awesome. Mexico really has its pros and cons. MGTOW Monger and I took off to breakfast this morning. And I went low carb, of course, and it was about $9 for both of us, including the tip. So yeah, good times. Here's another little courtyard we've got going. We need to sweep down there. Tomorrow is kind of a big day for me because I'm going to get another cancer scan to see what's what, see if that immunotherapy and all those treatments I had back in December gave me any help. I did learn a kind of a cancer workout routine, which is kind of nice over at the cancer center, and I'll tell you, after my treatments back in December, I was really surprisingly weak. I actually came really close to collapsing in the middle of a busy intersection in Tijuana twice. And you don't want to be falling down in the middle of an intersection, not the way they drive in that town. But over the last couple months, since then, I've, by just cautiously doing, and persistently doing those workouts, I'd like to say that I'm pretty much 100% recovered. I basically start out with a little cardio on that thing there. Then I do some stretching over here. Then I do, it used to be about all I could do to be at this 45-degree angle on this rail, and I would do push-ups at 45 degrees. And I could do 10 reps, and then I worked up, to like 3 sets of 10 reps, and then I upgraded from that to doing push-ups on these 2 chairs over here with my feet on the floor, and that is just a slight incline, and I can do 5 correct push-ups on this on those 2 chairs now. So something I haven't been able to do for about 20 years. So yeah, and then I have breathing involved and everything, and I use this little stretchy device, and I also do those things where you balance on one foot and it's sort of almost a yoga pose. And then I like stand on one foot and I just bend down a little bit on one foot to build strength in my legs, and boy, that really helps. So and then of course I've been low carb, and I do allow myself a cheat day, like sometimes once a week. Usually, well, it's not more than once a week. Sometimes it's less than once a week. So Yeah, and then anyway, and then tomorrow I go for another cancer scan, and well, fingers crossed. Let's see what's what. It's I have zero pain. Um, I'm 2 years into this, and at this point in my journey, 40% of people, guys with this problem, have, according to the statistics, they have already passed away by now. So, and here I am with zero pain, and I feel freaking amazing. Weight was 248, and now it's 170. It was 160 or something like that when I first moved here, but over the last month or two, while I've been doing all these cancer workouts, I've gained 10 pounds, and my stomach is still pretty darn flat. So I'm thinking that it's muscle building, and I do appear to have more upper body definition and whatnot. So yeah, something's happening. And so anyway, 40% of guys have died by now, and I am still alive. And I have no pain. So tomorrow the scan will tell me, you know, where I am, and maybe the immunotherapy helped. And I've even heard good things about the virus everybody's screaming about. I've actually heard of one case where a guy went into remission 4 months after getting that virus, because apparently the virus attacked the cancer, and then the immune system attacked the virus, and it was in the cancer, and then it it ate all the tumors away. There's been some people who have utilized the measles virus to fight cancer before. I'm not sure if they inject the tumors with the virus or just give them measles and see what happens. But the measles really beats them up hard, but it really knocks the cancer down. So, you know, who knows? Maybe I'll go get that. It's like a experimental alternative treatment. This is like a little sunshade they have over this little courtyard. That's kind of nice. Before the rainy season comes up, we're going to put mosquito netting around this courtyard, so that because mosquitoes are pretty bad in the rainy season here. So anyway, they won't be able to dive down into the courtyard and eat us alive. Every once in a while we see one mosquito, but that's pretty rare. A lady who used to run this or live here, she had all kinds of bottles of water laying around with these vines in them, starting and rooting them, and they were just breeding mosquitoes. And mosquitoes were just, you could look in there and see them wiggling around, the larvae, and that's nuts. What was she thinking? Anyway, so yeah, Munger and I were discussing somebody he knows, and apparently this happens a lot. I won't give any specifics, but he was a guy who was a part of a good family, and you know, his family worked hard, and they were religious, and they believed in monogamy, and they did the whole family values thing, and then he says, okay, I'm gonna see what I can do. I'm gonna go leap over that wall and go to work in California and see what I can send home, and it worked well for like a year maybe. And he would, and he'd send money home, and then he was buying property in a house home, or back here in Mexico, and then he got sucked into a relationship with this American woman, and he of course was still learning English and just working 12-hour days at a sweatshop, and she basically started just taking over his life, and if he wouldn't knuckle under, she would threaten to call immigration and and domestic violence and all that shit. And then she had it suddenly. Apparently, she had a drug problem. It probably existed before he even knew her, but it demonstrated itself. And then she was stealing, and then he would say that he was the one who did it, you know, and then he would be hauled off to jail for a month, and then his life just went into this death spiral. And then they were both living under a bridge on drugs, and obviously he couldn't be sending money home because they needed all the money for drugs. And then basically it spiraled even further, and some other crimes occurred, and now he's in jail longer term. So and apparently that is not unusual. There's a whole demographic of drug addict women who are basically picking up illegal alien men and harvesting their sweatshop labor and using them for whatever, you know, drugs and money, and it's causing and then getting them into drugs. And then a lot of these guys, they just have no immunity to that sort of shit. They come from a society, the smaller towns in Mexico, where relationships matter and honor exists, and people are straight shooters and actually tell the truth to each other, and then they get sucked into something like that, and into a society where honor is just gone, and people's word means nothing, you know, and then they just get sucked into it, and then they have no immunity, and they have no psychological self-defense from that shit, and then they just get obliterated, chewed up, and end up in long-term jail, prison, and then hopefully they get deported so that they can come back to sanity. So I'm starting to sympathize with some of those illegals who cross the border, and then they just get obliterated by these bottom-feeding, low-life, drug addict, feminist, welfare baby mamas, and then they pop out a baby from the guy, and then he's obligated to pay all this child support, and then his dreams, whatever dreams he had to build a better life for himself here in Mexico, and have some property and maybe a rental house or two, are just obliterated. So it's a nasty business. I mean, American men get it bad enough, but we grow up seeing this shit. I grew up seeing, first of all, my mom kicked my dad out of the house, and then I saw, as a mechanic, I saw so many of my fellow mechanics just obliterated in divorce court. Then I saw one of my best friends jailed on a false accusation. That was enough for me. That made me a MGTOW back in 1997, because I saw that occur in 1996, and it took me 4 months of agonizing over it to finally let it go, finally give myself permission to give up the whole marriage, white picket fence dream, because it is just not practical. But I was sort of a pioneer, you know, because there was no MGTOW information online. There were no MGTOW videos. The internet of the day, 1996, it was more like a glorified a glorified BBS system that was like worldwide. You could go to chat groups and news groups and discussion groups on like you know like CompuServe and AOL and whatnot, but there was no YouTube. So I basically had to figure all that shit out for myself, but I saw it happen right in front of my face, you know, time after time. So many of my fellow mechanics were just moaning around the shop after getting kicked out of their families and having their kids taken, and then get obliterated and impoverished by child support and what they call, Washington State doesn't do alimony, they call it maintenance, but it's basically the same thing. But it's not like 10-year like lifetime alimony like in California, but it is definitely alimony. They just call it something else. But I saw it happen time after time, but a lot of these guys here in Mexico have never seen that shit, never seen how bad things can get. So they're just not prepared for it. So that's one of the cool things about Mexico. MGTOW is gaining traction here in Mexico, and I'm hoping, I can't read the forums yet or anything. I'm working on my Spanish, but it's a big job, guys. Learning a new language is a lifetime job. It's like learning a whole nother career. It's so involved, and it's just huge, and it's hard and not easy. So, but I'm picking some up, and I can do some halting statements and exchanges. I'm still working on numbers, but I'm making progress. So anyway, yeah. But anyway, so I can't read the news groups or the comments, but there are MGTOW videos in Spanish on YouTube, so that's cool. And maybe some of those MGTOW will warn some of these really rural guys who are coming out, who are just so completely unprepared for the feminist society that they're going into when they hop over that friggin' wall and try to earn some money and try to send some home and build some kind of life for themselves. They really need to be on their guard against these feminist baby mamas who are just going to use them for money and child support and an excuse for to get welfare from the state. They are not prepared for that, and they need to be warned. I wish I could warn them, but I can't speak Spanish. Still working on it. So anyway, Mexico has a lot of pros and cons. I like the pros. $350 a month for this awesome house. How awesome is that? And $9 for a very nice breakfast this morning for both Monger and I. And basically mangoes are 20 pesos a pound. Not mangoes, avocados. But I'm about getting really close to having to fly home to restock my cancer meds because a lot of them are just not available here. So, and then trying to ship things here is a major pain, and it takes a long time. It took like a month and a half to get some sodium ascorbate, because I'm going to attempt to do vitamin C megadose IVs right here at the house. And it took a month and a half for it to get shipped over here. Major pain. So anyway, when I go home, I'm going to try to set up a remailer if they have FedEx, and then I will use that as my main address. I think it's in Tacoma, Anyway, then I'll be able to keep my Washington State residency with the 0 income tax of Washington State. And then I might move to either Eastern Washington when I go home, or maybe I'll just sell everything and move back here. It's Mexico's got a lot going for it. It really does. And no lockdowns. They're not crazy on masks. You can walk through, the city without anybody giving you any crap. And I just put my mask on when I walk into a restaurant, and usually when I walk out, because I don't want the restaurant to look bad. But other than that, going into a store, I have to wear the mask. But other than that, it's not bad. So, and plus, the virus was not bad. I had it for 18 days from first symptoms to the absolute end when the last bit of congestion was out of my lungs. And from day 5 to day 16, I had absolutely no sense of smell. I could hold a cup of coffee right under my nose and go and smell absolutely nothing. It was weird. And then day 17, my sense of smell was coming back. Day 18, it was pretty much normal again. Now it's normal again. So basically, I had it for 18 days, and here I am, a 56-year-old with 9 cancerous tumors, and for me, it was just a more serious version of a head and chest cold, but otherwise it was just like pretty much the common cold, only a bit worse, with the added weirdness of losing my sense of smell. So that's about all I got for you guys. Sorry about not making videos for a while, but when I'm really content and happy, there's oftentimes not a hell of a lot to talk about. So, I've been using Dissenter more. If you make a Gab account, you can load the Dissenter extension onto either the Brave browser or download the Dissenter browser, and then you can write your comment on a YouTube video in the Dissenter browser, or the Dissenter comment, and then when you have it right, you can copy it and then paste it into YouTube. But I find so often nowadays that YouTube deletes my comment five minutes after I post it. So I just leave a note saying YouTube's deleting my comments on Dissenter. So if you ever want to be able to comment, and I'll be checking my comments on Dissenter on my videos like this one as well. And basically, it's a way of commenting that will actually get to me without YouTube deleting the darn thing. So otherwise, you're just at the mercy of YouTube whether or not they delete your comment. So, what a world, huh? Okay, MGTOWs, that's about all I got for you. And don't get married.